Hello, this is Wayne Roseberry from Software Testing. Today I built a mind map of FordDrive.com, a car leasing site that they have. The mind map was initially about the page structure of the application, all the parts that I could see from the page, but also the services that seem like they should be there on the back end to support all the functionality that you see on the page. Kind of implied functionality, things that you'd look for. I took a strategical analysis. I wasn't going after specific test cases. I wasn't bug hunting. I wasn't trying to chase down problems while I was looking at the site. But instead, I wanted to think about how would someone go about preparing for testing this on the larger scale, getting a team ready, worried about how things would impact on kinds of equipment you need to buy, kinds of systems you need to build, types of problems that would come up during the testing. It's interesting how sometimes the same things you will create to do detailed stuff like how do I do exactly this test, or how does this system work for me to come up with cases and ideas and find bugs, also drive the bigger, larger questions in the test strategy. So let's go take a look. I had fun doing this. I hope you have fun watching. Thank you.
Let's talk about thinking of test strategies and building up a model of an application and some of the ideas that come out for a test strategy. Bigger picture things. So I'm going to be in and out of some ideas that might be very detailed test ideas, it might be very broad ideas. I'm not going to do a full-on strategy, just some of the thinking that comes up when you start breaking down an app. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you outlining an app using a mind map, okay, which I'll talk about that. And we're going to use FordDrive.com as the example application. FordDrive.com is where Ford Motors has a leasing program so people can lease cars instead of purchase. It's a new program for them. And just want to take a look at this and see how we might structure a test strategy. And so part of the idea is like to look at the parts of the application. And I've already done a mind map around it. I spent a little bit of time working on it. So I'm not going to go through piece by piece and part by part and talk about it. I'm going to focus in on a couple of ideas that caught my attention, talk about the way that I organized the mind map and broke it down, and let's go take a look. So first thing you'll notice, we've got the website here, the first main page, and it's got content on it, of course, and different parts. And so I decided that initially I would just concern myself with the pages and the page structures, right? So let's go take a peek over at the mind map really quick. Over on the left here, this is inside Mural, which they have various visualization and whiteboarding tools. One of those being a mind map object, and I've got FordDrive.com as the central object in the mind map. If we scroll out a little bit, you can see it's larger than that, and I'm doing an overall view. So because I just wanted to get a shape of a model of the app. And on this side, I've got pages, so that I'm just containing the pages I can see from the front page in under a thing called pages, and we'll get to that in a second. And the first page we're looking at here is the home page, right? So let's go and take a look at the home page. I did a really quick scan of it, and I noticed that we've got this navigation space in the front. We have a bunch of stuff, content, just the main body in the middle, okay? And then there's a footer down here at the bottom, and also this cookie settings thing that comes up. So we go to the Mural, to Mural, and look at the mind map. That's the way I organized it. I've got let's pop out just a little bit. On the home page, I've got the main page body, I've got top navigation, and the bottom navigation. decided, make it a simple structural analysis of the page as we can see it. And then as you go through the page, there's these different parts and functionalities. I've got the behaviors up here on the top, in the navigation with various links and things, and the content that goes through the page. Now, let's take a look at some of the stuff that I saw when I went there. So like on this top navigation object, I just go by what's visible, right? I've got the Ford logo, the location drop down, contact us, sign in, and join now, which you'll see are represented up here in the logo location menu drop down and such as that. Now let's take just some thought about these structures here, right? So the location menu, sign in and join now, start to have some implications on behavior. Like, there's a sign up mechanism, there's a way of signing in, and the location menus to other kinds of things, other content for different places. Now let's look at some of these, right? When we go to location, we see, okay, it's limited to Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco. Okay. And when we click on that, it takes us to Ford Drive and then Los Angeles. Notice Los Angeles is a two-word name. It's got a hyphen in there. I know that sounds like a trivial thing to mention, but let's get back to that in a little bit. And then that's how I've structured it here. So in the mind map, it's not really that interesting to talk about it this way. It's like, the drop down is Los Angeles in there. But if you think about this this is kind of a detailed test point, but if you think about this from a testing problem question, you start to wonder, well, how did these get here, right? How does Los Angeles, San Diego, and San Francisco get on this page? And how is it that, the name of the address is going to be, FordDrive.com/Los Angeles, or let's just guess. Let's go San Diego. Do I spell that right, or is it going to 404 me? Okay, it got San Diego, right? And likewise San Francisco. It's like, so how did these pages get here? How does this get populated? And matter of fact, if we look at this object, and I'll do that. Okay, here's the drop down. Okay, the drop down box. And if I look at Los Angeles, let's say inspect Los Angeles. Okay, we can see that Los Angeles is just an anchor tag, right? I can widen this a little bit more so that we can see more of it, but it's just an anchor tag, and the href is there to just what page we're on /line. So it's a really simple construct. There's not a lot going on in here. There's not JavaScript saying this is what the link should be. It's not looking up anything in a database. It's not dynamic. It's static in the page from our perspective, right, from this side. But is it really like that on the back end? Because this creates an interesting problem, right? At right now, they've just got the 3 cities, right? But you expect that if the program gets bigger, they're going to grow the list of cities, right? You do a drop down and it might have other cities in California, or it might have Chicago, or it might have Miami or New York or Michigan, or it's somewhere in Michigan, Dearborn, of course, Ford, Seattle, whichever cities. And so now the question is like, how does this get here? Does somebody manually edit the page and put these links in and make sure that a page is propagated to this location as specified here? Or is the page built dynamically on the back end? What is the code on the back end? Is it Python? Is it ASP.NET? Is it Java? Is it PHP? Who knows, right? What this is? So because this starts to become an interesting test question, because it's really easy. Let me show you something. I'm just going to say, let's pretend I live near Seattle. Let's say that we were looking to do this in Seattle. Okay, what's it do? Okay, 404 not found. Well, okay, good. That's what it should say if you don't have the page here. But what if this was a statically edited page, right? What if the link, I'm sorry, not didn't want to open a new link there. Again, what if the link for San Francisco was just a typo? Someone had forgot the little hyphen there, or misspelled Francisco, and it pointed to the wrong actual page. Or what if the actual page name had been input correctly? What is the process of doing this? So statically is actually a problem, statically created, because it pushes all of the checking for a correct link to actually pulling up this page live and seeing what's here and going through every single one of them, right? Versus what if this is done programmatically? What if there is a service or a file dropped somewhere, or a database call or something that the backend code calls to dynamically build this drop-down collection, right? This set of options. What if that's how this gets here? And what if this isn't even, San Francisco isn't even a page at all, but just a routing direction to some content that's pulled and generated dynamically? We don't know what this is, right? That this content that's on these pages, are these files that are on the server, or are they coming out of some widget content creation system? We don't know. So that creates an interesting set of questions for testing, because if it's static, it moves the testing problem all the way up to the top. If it's dynamic, to some degree, some of that testing can be done at a lower level where you don't have to invoke a browser or anything like that, or at least invoke things programmatically. But it also means a more complex system serving up this content, which then brings up interesting questions of like performance and reliability and things like that. But the test strategy and the test approach moves around based on answers to questions like this. And so this is why when you're looking at behavior of something like this, the service impression from the end user perspective doesn't really tell you what you need to know. It's you should be thinking of these questions as a tester, right? Now, if you're just like, how am I going to test this? I'm the tester on it. That's one way. Is like, what are the cases here, right? So the cases are things like, what happens when you add a new page? Does that work? Are all the pages we're adding going to the links that they're supposed to be in, and stuff like that? What happens when we have a much larger program, right? 3 cities in California is easy to fit in a drop down, but when this thing scales out, is the design going to have to change? Let's go to Los Angeles. Then let's look at the page, right? Once we're on this page and we look up the page itself, we see that, okay, there's all these, things about stuff in here, but check this out. Drop us a line. You got some questions, things like that. And look, here's a pointer to the Redondo Beach, California, in Los Angeles. What if there's more than one in Los Angeles? How does it know to put this on this map? This doesn't look like Google Maps. What is this map? Where is this coming from? There's a whole functionality here of pinpointing the correct location on the map based on this. There's actually a lot going on here. And what is this asset? Is it static, or is it dynamically? Is there JavaScript making this thing placed on the page correctly, or do they just prepare a thing ahead of time? So, and I'm not going to go into in depth. My main point is that it generates a lot of questions for the tester on the feature. But it also generates some larger strategic questions, like, are we moving this testing all the way up to end, or are we going to try to push some of this testing onto services on the back end that might be serving this up to see, what they do? Because If it's on a back end thing, then it could be that the code that produces this is generalized, and we need to do less testing of that generalized code. We don't need to like get every single instance of something passing through this, as much as we need to check that the stuff coming out of it is compliant with what it should be and directs to the right thing, from service-wise. So the whole strategy changes on this. But it also would suggest that if this is created programmatically, there may be structures that are on the back end that we don't know about, right? Which feeds the shape of the map. Right now, it's just this location menu with these things. But, that this creates a question, like, where do these come from? Is there a whole service that we don't know about, which would feed the larger map? I'll talk about services in just a little bit. Let's look at another piece of functionality here that's very interesting. So I go to, there's a sign in, right, where you could sign in, and it takes us to a sign in page. I'm not going to explore that just yet, okay? But let's look at join now. Okay, here's an interesting thing, and indeed I've got that on the diagram. You might have seen this when I was showing the diagram earlier, that join now points to sign in with Uber prompt and further examination blocked. And that's a note about me being able to explore no further, because the offer is only available for drivers who use Uber at this time. Log into your Uber account to see if you qualify, and you've got to have a certain driver rating and a certain lifetime trip count. Okay, so only Uber drivers, or people at least who have Uber accounts, can get this. That's fine. It's a business decision, whatever. The issue that this raises is that means that there is integration with Uber, right? If I say log in with Uber, right? I haven't done this yet. I haven't seen what this looked like. I'm gonna tell it no, I don't want to. Okay. I am now into Uber Marketplace, and so I need to sign in, I guess, to make this work. The deal is that there is a whole integration with Uber at this point. We have to go into Uber to sign in. There has to be some notion of accounts relative to Uber. And so there's a whole subsystem, a whole service. How are they doing this? I mean, the idea of using some other authority to authenticate you against the service, that people do that all the time. You see a lot of services do that with outside authorities, but that means that there is some kind of integration with Uber for getting people authenticated. And actually, is there a possibility that there's a driver rating and trip count information that passes through your Uber account to Ford Drive at this point? I don't know, but it's required, and it suggests that that would be a thing. So that suggests a whole integration space with Uber, right, as a backend thing. This now gets us to another thing, is what are the back end of this thing. And so and I want to talk about that, because there's some things in addition to login with Uber, of course. There's this whole notion of people signing in at all, that there's going to be a back-end service for just managing your account with Ford Drive. It may be Uber identity that authenticates you, but you're going to have a record inside of FordDrive.com to do that. Now, let's look at some of the other implications in this page. So I've got these content blocks, which we're going to scroll through here, talking about how the program works and stuff. I'm going to skim past that a little bit, right? It talks about when you join, you choose the kind of package you want. Here's more of the requirements to join, which we've already talked about, the Uber stuff. Okay. But we get down to, okay, here we go. The weekly plans. So, of course, there's different plans, different charges on a weekly basis for for different levels of service. Okay, and basically the most expensive one is unlimited miles, and then 1,000 miles and 500 miles per week driven is what the plans allow, which is an interesting pricing structure. Is this automatically, like, how do they know if you're exceeding the miles? Do you have to drive in and somewhere and have them check, or does the car tell them? Is